This is Julian, and I'm here in Berlin, Germany. And what I want to talk about in this video here is something that's really missing in today's world, in today's society, which is social intelligence. Okay, this is one of the most important things you can cultivate. It's a skill, it's something anyone can cultivate, and it will just open so many doors, so many opportunities. It is absolutely insane. Okay, how to be aware of different contexts, how to read people, and ultimately connect with people. Without this, it doesn't matter how good intentioned you are or how great of a person you are, how great your idea is, all the doors will close. Okay, you must cultivate this. It's a priority. It's not a choice like, do I want to learn social intelligence? You need to learn this, so pay attention and enjoy. Why are people getting dumber when it comes to social intelligence? Social media. That's my take. And the fact that less and less people go outside and interact in the real world. You know, back in my time, there were no cell phones. That's not true. There were cell phones, but it was the old cell phones with the little snake game. But it's true. Back in my time, or even when I started going out and interacting with people, there was a lot less going on online. Okay, so say I went home after my studies, after work, there'd be that urge to socialize with someone. And instead of just going on Facebook or Instagram, which didn't exist at the time either, you'd go out in the real world and you'd start interacting with people in the real world. And you would get real world feedback on what it's like to interact with someone. Nowadays, you can kind of fulfill that virtually, you know, to the point where if you're someone who's into video games, and this first came to life with games like World of Warcraft, you can literally craft your entire life and virtually fulfill all your needs online. You have your character, you have a mission, there's significance, there's your purpose, you level up, so on and so forth. You socialize, you create little clans online, and that's your life. You never have to leave the house at all. Just play World of Warcraft. And you feel like a massive sense of accomplishment, a massive sense of mastery over World of Warcraft. You fail at a mission, you stick at it, you know the strategies, and after a while you succeed. You level up, you get the skills, you feel like you're growing. And all you have to do is just eat and shit. That's it. You don't have to go out at all in the real world. And you kind of get conditioned to living in this online world. Now you come out in the real world and you have no idea of different contexts, no idea how to read people, which is huge, by the way. We always place a bad label on reading people, like, oh, that's very manipulative. No. It depends your intentions, of course. If you're reading someone to try to fuck them over, then fuck you. But you should be able to read people in order to connect with them. If you can't read them, you cannot connect with them. And it'll be very, very hard to progress in life. A huge part of me being here, by the way, in the position that I'm now, and being as modest as I am, is pure social intelligence. For real. That's like one of the biggest things I had moving to LA with nothing going for me. You know? Like, it's crazy. Actually, think about this. I moved to LA from Switzerland, where I'm originally from. Now, I know you're in Berlin, you're like, oh, sprichst du Deutsch? Nein, Französisch. Neben Lausanne, neben Genf, aber ich verstehe a lot of German. But I moved to LA with nothing. I was just some fucking dumb kid. I had my guitar, my suitcase, and $5,000 in my pocket. Nothing going for me. People think I moved there and I immediately started working for RSD. That's why I moved there. Fuck no. I didn't know Owen. I knew nothing. I knew of him. I knew of RSD, but I didn't know I was going to work for them. I was just winging it. Then I got a shitty job. I worked at a place called Coffee Bean, making coffee, making lattes, making, you know, those little ice blend frappuccino things, and I was damn good at it. But that was me. How is it that I went from that to traveling with Owen, teaching, growing, and being here today? Social intelligence. That's the thing that opens the doors. You still have to have the skills to back it up, the faculties to back it up, but if you don't have social intelligence, the doors aren't even open for you. And nowadays, It's worse and worse. However, don't freak out. You're like, oh my God, it's so fucked, I'm so fucked. No, the competition's even lower than before. So if you just learn a little bit, you will surpass everyone. Okay? Now, when it comes to social intelligence, the first thing to always ask yourself is, what is the context? If you take a seminar like this, what's the context? You know, I made fun of a few before. The context is, I'm here speaking, you're here attending. You're not alone here attending, and what makes a seminar great is all of us together raising the vibe. That's what makes a seminar fucking great. So what that means is, you can ask questions, but there are, number one, appropriate times to ask questions, not in the middle of me talking. And when you ask a question, you should probably ask a question that is on topic with what we're talking about, not out of left field, and ask a question that everyone else can relate to. If it's just a question that applies to you and no one else, that's not a win-win for everyone else and yourself. It's not appropriate to the context. If you ask a question and it's not loud enough, that's not appropriate to the context because no one can hear you. If you ask a question that sucks the air out of the room and you're just kind of like, oh, you know, here's a fucking question, just answer it. And there's not like that raising of the vibe, that is not appropriate to the context. If you ask a question and talk for too long, again, in your mind, you're like, this is so interesting, this is me, my life story, but no one else here gives a shit about your life story unless they know you. It's not appropriate to the context. Okay? Now, still be congruent to you, and we'll talk about this as well. Don't be fake, but if you want to connect with other people, if you want to live in society, you must be congruent and relatable, acting in a way that is appropriate to whatever context you're in. The same as if you're interacting with someone, even just one-on-one. You cannot only focus on me, 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 me. You have to be able to read people and make sure it's connecting with them. That is the context. Does this make sense so far? Okay. Now, once more, linking it to social media, the reason it's hard to understand this is you're used to seeing stuff online. YouTube videos or webinars, and there's always the little comment box or the chat box. And in there, you can write as much as you want. And it doesn't interrupt it. So here, I know some of you, if not a lot of you, are wondering, where's the chat box? I'm so used to commenting as I'm watching these videos and shit. How do I do it here? And then people blurt it out. Okay? You're acting in the real world as if you're in the online world. The rules change online to real world. Okay? So in terms of learning how to read people, the first thing you need to do is learn how to see people in a more accurate and realistic way. Okay? And this all starts with diving into yourself and letting go of different states you're hooked on and letting go of different patterns that run you. So what do I mean by this? The internal always colors the external. Very cliche saying, but very true. If you're someone, for example, who's hooked on a state of fear, and that's just your default, you're always kind of afraid, always kind of paranoid, you're not going to see the world as it really is. Technically, no one ever will, but you're going to project a lot of fear. You're going to pick up on different things that reinforce that state of fear. That is what your RAS, your selective focus, is going to pick up on. So you might be sitting here, and instead of looking around and just seeing people, you're going to be like, oh man, are people looking at me? Are people judging me? What's going on? And because you can't see them in a more accurate way, it's going to be very hard to read them. If you're someone who always assumes that you're going to get rejected by people, and I've had this so many times over the years teaching men how to interact with women, they have trouble seeing a girl smiling at them. They'll block it off, like every girl here hates me. And I literally have to take pictures of the girl smiling to show them proof because they can't accurately see it. If you can't accurately see it, how can you develop social intelligence? You can't. Does this make sense so far? Okay. The same with different patterns that run you. Like we project so much. I was talking recently with someone, and he still projects this whole high school, cool person, bullies reality onto people. When he walks down the street, when he's at work, when he's at the gym, he's looking through the filter of this is high school. So it's always like, okay, where are the cool people? All right, those are the cool people. Those are probably the guys who fucking like on the football team get all the girls. Oh shit, where are the losers? Where's this? And that's how he's viewing reality. Okay, that is stuff that you must dive into and let go of. So it all starts with that inner work. Until you do that, you're going to be acting in this very skewed way. You need to see a clear map in order to calibrate to it. Number 2, learn how what you do affects people. And this always gets a little awkward because we're just used to acting in the moment. But if you want to learn social intelligence, you must first go through this phase of making everything conscious, going through this awkward phase, in order to tweak it, understand it, and then make it unconscious again. So what does that mean? Go out and start interacting with people in the real world. That's number 1. If you don't interact with people in the real world, good luck. Number 2, look at everything that you're doing and look how that affects the people you're interacting with. How it's affecting them, okay? And a great way of kind of filtering how it affects people is look for what I call pressure on and pressure off. All right? Anything you're saying, anything you're doing, anything that's happening is either putting pressure on someone or taking pressure off of them. And you must maintain a certain balance. Too much pressure is bad. Too little pressure is also bad. And you can usually look for signs of tenseness. Okay? So say I'm interacting with you, and say we're just chatting in the street, and I get quite close, like super fucking close here. I was talking around. Notice tension builds. You're like, what's going on? That is putting pressure on someone, getting close. Going far away, a lot less pressure. Okay? So proximity is something that causes pressure on, pressure off, but we're not aware of it. Okay? We're just like, oh, I'll just stand here. Like some people will just stand there, and you can sense the person is kind of uncomfortable, kind of tense, like, and they just won't back off. Okay? You could be a great person, have great intentions. If you don't understand that, that person is not going to connect with you. They're not going to want to see you again. Does this make sense? Okay? The way you talk, being loud, or, so anyway, how's it going? Hey, what do you do? So what do you do? Pressure on, pressure off. Eye contact, pressure on, looking away, pressure off. Okay? Everything you say, everything you do is either putting pressure on, putting pressure off. Too much pressure is tense. Too little pressure is bored, whatever. And you got to balance it in order to connect with people. And you can even look at it on a bigger scale here. Remember the context of a seminar. If someone asks a question, and say it's loud, there's a smile, and it's appropriate to the context, you'll see people kind of like in between, like, okay, let's see what's going on. And say that person just keeps going on and on and on. Everyone just gets bored. Too little pressure. Okay? So you must literally monitor every little thing, everything you say or do. And just start making notes. Like, oh, that's interesting. When I say this way, that's what happens. When I say this to someone who feels like this, in this context, in this situation, that's what happens. When I do this, that's what happens. Oh, with this person feeling this and me feeling this is what happens. And start documenting. Super nerdy, but you must start documenting while going out in the real world and just analyzing everything. That's the first thing I did, by the way, when I first started going out and learning success with women. Okay, when I started out, I was way too scared to be myself. I literally memorized some stories online. I'm not even kidding. And I would go out to bars and just share stories with people. I'd be like, hey, so are you best friends? That's crazy. You make the same facial mannerisms. Hey, do you know this thing called the cube? And I would just tell this story about a fucking cube and prairies and horses and shit. And it got me nowhere. I mean, people listened. It's cool stories. But the one thing that I got from that is every time I would say a story, I'm like, how did they react to that? Now, what if after this story, I say this story? oh, they reacted that way. Now, what if I switch it up, go talk to someone else, and instead I do this sequence of stories? So you're testing different sequences, testing different ways of delivering those sequences, and analyzing. Now, you got to move away from the stories, because the more you use the stories, the less good of a person you feel, because you feel like you're nothing without the stories, but it gives you a feel for people. It gets you out of the online, out of the speculation, it gets you a feel for people. And the third step to this is you must find the balance, seeing people accurately, looking at how what you're saying or doing is affecting them, and then finding the balance between congruency and relatability. And that's the little magic area here, okay? You should always be congruent. Never compromise who you are in order to please someone else. Okay, and this is important to understand. You're being aware of different contexts, different situations, in order to act in an appropriate way, but not in order to stifle you or control you. You feel completely at ease being you, but you just know that if you don't act within this context, no one's going to connect with you. And that's a lose-lose. So anything you do in this circle is congruent to you. It's not just one thing that's congruent to you. There are many things that are congruent to you at any moment in time. Anything in this circle is what the other person can relate to. So when you meet someone new, just as an example, and say you say something that's a little out there, that's congruent to you, they may not relate. And what most people do is they don't even notice this, they just keep on doing it, or they do, and they keep on doing it. What you have to do is always act in this circle, but then you read the other person. Did they tense up? Is it too much pressure? Not enough pressure? Are they relating to this, or are they closed off to it? Do they think I'm weird? Do they think I'm too boring? Do they think I'm too crazy? And if it's too far out there, switch it and try something else. Whoop, a little better, but still not in that sweet spot. Until, it's like playing Battleship, you find the sweet spot where you're still being you, and people can relate, and they don't view you as being creepy. Okay? The more time you spend with someone, the bigger the sweet spot gets. The cooler you become, the bigger the sweet spot gets. And sometimes, they just don't cross. In that case, you've met someone, just in this context of interactions, that you're not meant to be with. The only way to connect with that person is to fake it. In that case, you say goodbye. But you must always find this balance of being yourself and being relatable. And that's what a win-win is. What's my goal? What's that person's goal? How can I make it win-win? If you're only being yourself and you're saying fuck the other person, that is, so you think, a win for you and a lose for them. If you're always compromising who you are to please others, and you're always acting in that circle but never in yours, you're a people pleaser, that is, you'd think, a win for them and a lose for you. This is win-win. Okay? And that there, I kid you not, is the foundation of social intelligence. And if you take these three ideas and you apply it to all areas of life, it'll be absolutely crazy how your life will improve. And always put yourself, too, in the other person's shoes. What are they thinking? What are they feeling? How are they going to react to this? How could they interpret this? And that, by the way, is, just as an example, how I started traveling with Owen. Okay? I didn't ask the thing that everyone else asked him, because we'd see each other out, and we started just hanging out here and there. What's the first thing everyone would ask him? Hey, answer me this question. I didn't do that. Okay? And immediately it's like, he stands out, and immediately he's not taking. Because here's the thing too. Say I want to spend time with Owen, and this is, again, how I thought even at the time. Say I want to spend time with this guy. Do I want to be leeching off of him? Is he going to want to spend time with someone who's leeching off of them? And then you just flip it around on you. Put yourself in his shoes. Would you spend time with someone who's constantly asking questions, constantly leeching off of you? Yes or no? No. No. Okay, so there's step one. Let's not leech. Would you spend time with someone who's negative all the time? No, so don't be negative. Are you going to spend with someone who's just low energy and just draining all the time? No, so switch that around. Okay? Those are just basic things. Now, would you spend time with someone who's coming up and talking to you when you don't want to be talked to? No. So then there's an appropriate context in terms of when to go talk to the person. You know, I for fun, will sometimes do this in live events where I'll stand in the back. I didn't do it today, but I'll stand in the back, and I'm always just curious, and I pretend to act really pissed off. I kid you not. Like I'll pull my phone out, and I'll just be like this in the corner, like pretending to be pissed off. And I'll see how many people come up to me. And as they're walking up, I pretend to be even more pissed off. I'm like, God damn it, fuck. Just to see, like, hey, Julian, can I take a picture? Just to see if they'll still ask. Now, nothing wrong with it, but that's not the appropriate context. It's not the appropriate time. And social intelligence, I mentioned social media kind of fucking it up, but it also applies to social media, where if you send someone, as an example, an Instagram private message or DM, ask yourself, how could this person perceive this? Is it getting me closer to my goals or not? Okay? If you want to be friends with me, don't send me a dick pic, which I have gotten. I'm not even joking. I'm like, it's like, who does that? Like you take a picture, like, you're like, this is a great first text. Like, no. Okay? Don't send me stuff like that. An extreme example, but always ask yourself, how might they receive this? How will it affect people? Okay? But trust me, just something as simple as that, if you start practicing it, will change your life.
This is Julian, and welcome to Transformation Master.
It was fucking amazing.
This was huge for me. This was so important.
This gave me by far the greatest epiphanies I've ever had.
It just made me finally confront my deepest fears.
And we got like real deep, and I found some issues within myself.
One of the best things I've seen so far in my life.
What you're about to experience going through this program is what completely changed my life on every single level, okay? Be it health, wealth, relationships, higher purpose, you name it. This is the stuff that finally produced that true, long-lasting personal transformation we're all after.